Hello there, and welcome to my quick tutorial on what I'm calling directable fluids in After Effects. Basically these little globule things which all join together and move around the screen and stuff. This is the third time I've done this tutorial in about an hour, because the first time I didn't record it and the second time was on the wrong frame rate, so bear with me. I may question some of the things that I'm saying because I've already said them so many times, but anyway, rather than go through from scratch and show you the whole tutorial because I'm so fed up with doing that, I'm just going to show you how I got to this and just point out key things that you need to know in order to do it. First of all, I know that this is not the best example of this kind of technique. It's I've basically coloured these blobs. They look a bit like blood, I suppose. I don't know, they're going to attack this guy in here. That's why he's looking down to the floor to see where these blobs are coming from. It looks even worse coming back the other way. What's going on there? Yeah, so but this is just the basic techniques. This is the kind of thing that I'm just going to show you how you get to this point, and then from there you can grade it, you can play around the techniques. I think this would be quite cool for creating displacement maps and bump maps for 3D applications. So whether it's water on a windscreen or on a tabletop or something like that, or water drops on the outside of a glass, outside of a bottle or a glass or a can or something, would be quite cool. But even in After Effects itself, it works quite well. And the reason I'm doing this is because I've literally just used this whole After Effects technique for an independent movie project that I've been working on, where they basically wanted these blobs to sort of converge and travel along people's arms and over their faces and all this sort of stuff. And there wasn't really the time or budget to be going into Houdini or Blender or Maya or any of those applications and face tracking, and trying to direct fluids is not a very easy thing to do sometimes. So and this seems to work. So yeah, I'm just going to quickly show you how it works, and then you can go from there and do your own and do them much better, I'm sure. So let me start by just turning off some of this stuff and showing you what's going on. Turn that off for starters and turn these off. So basically what we've got is we've got this image in the background, and then on top of it we have this black solid, and it can be any colour solid, it doesn't matter, it doesn't use the colour from the solid at all. And we have this mask at the top is for the underside of the van. Here we go. So yeah, that's just to mask out the bottom of this van so the drops can disappear behind it. And then we've got all these masks that are just simple ellipsoid masks. Ellipsoid, is that correct? They're ellipses and they're masks. So yeah, we've got these, and what happens is that there's various motion paths on them. It's just a case of moving them around to the path that you want. And as you'll see is, I've this yellow one here, for example, as it moves through here, it's basically just travelling from that point to over here where it meets with this green one. But as it goes past, I've animated this one here with the weird pink colour to start at this point, and then it travels up, meets with the yellow one, and then from that point it travels along and meets up with the green one, and as they go past, this one then joins onto it and travels along and meets with the green one, and then they all travel up here up to the middle. And I've basically just done that principle that the sort of figured out the path that I wanted them to do, and then, same with this one over here. As that moves along, other ones join onto it. As these all move up, these get sucked into it. This one starts to get pulled into it. There's nothing clever going on there. It's all just manually doing keyframes, and that's also the great thing about this, is that you can direct them to take any path that you want, or your director can direct them to any path that you want. And that was what was needed for this project, and that's why this is such a cool thing, because you can create these weird sort of is autonomous the right word? I'm not sure, but intelligent, I suppose. These intelligent blobs that are going to move around the screen. So yeah, basically what we've got these blobs which have disappeared. There we go. And you can see the masks around them. Just turn that off. So these blobs all converge, and then they disappear onto the car. Now, that doesn't look particularly great. They don't really look like blobs. They don't look like they're sort of being sucked together and joined together and things like that. They just look like a bunch of circles that are, moving around. But this is the clever bit. This is where the fun bit comes in. It's all down to CC vector blur. And what CC vector blur does, I believe, is it looks at the motion of objects, and when they get close to each other, it kind of blends them together. I don't know if that's necessarily the intention of it, but what happens is that as these masks close in, so you look at these ones down the bottom here, as these two close in, at the moment they're just circles and they just, join together like this. But we put vector blur on, you can see it's blurred out a little bit already, but as they get closer, you can see that they kind of merge together, and it's the same with the other one next to it. And that's the magic bit of it, really. So we open this up, and when it first opens, the type is natural, and that may work for what you want. There's a few different settings. I mean, that's quite cool. It's maybe even better than the one that I had it on, to be honest. It does look quite cool. So let's leave it on that. Yeah, and as these ones travel over, you can see, I mean, it does this weird little thing here, but if you put motion blur on and stuff, it doesn't really matter. It's only like a frame of weirdness, and then they join up. So that's the cool bit. This is the bit that makes all the difference, and I think it's super cool when they come together and they join up like that. So that's the basics of it. CC vector blur. You put that on there. You can leave it all, as default, and then just play around with things like the softness, the amount, the ridge smoothness. They're like the settings that you're going to be playing around with, and depending on your comp size and things like that, you'll get different results using different things. Play around with the type as well. As I said, I had it on perpendicular, just because it seemed a little bit softer, but I don't know, natural, yeah, I don't know, natural's cool as well. I'll put it on perpendicular just so I know what I'm doing, because that's what it was set on. Okay, so basically on this solid then, so we've got CC vector blur. After that, I've put turbulent displace on, and that, just warps the whole thing. So we haven't got these round blobs anymore. They're blobby and distorting and stuff like that. So that again gives them that fluidy kind of look. And then one last thing, at the very start of the chain here, I've just got a fast blur on it just to smooth things out a little bit. You may not need it, you may do. It depends on the next step, basically. Having a little bit of blur on there tends to smooth out the displacement. So we'll play around with that. We'll see whether it makes a difference or not on this. So basically, the next step, we've got our blobs. They're moving together. They look cool. Then we need to take this. We can apply the displacement effect directly on this base layer, but it gives you a bit more control if you duplicate it. So that's what we have here. This is the duplicate layer of the one underneath it. And basically it then gives you the opportunity to turn these off, to do things like color correcting the blobs. So once we enable these blobs, basically, we can change the color of them, and we can, do other effects on them. We can put some curves on there and whatever we need really to make it fit into the scene better. So that's basically where, it's up to you to play around and get some decent results. I really can't be asked anymore because I've done this so many times. So yeah, we've got, what we need to do is use CC glass. But before we do that, we want to make sure that because we've duplicated this bottom layer, we want to create a track matte for this layer. And that track matte is going to be the layer above it, the black solid. Okay, so those masks are now cutting out that layer. So that's all we see underneath, is just where the masks have cut that layer out. Now it doesn't need to be that layer, and I would even argue that in this scene you may be better off using a sky, for example, because it's going to be reflecting upwards. So, if you had a sky with some clouds and stuff like that in it, it's probably going to be a better reflection than reflecting the scene that's already there. But for the project I've just been working on, this worked fine, so I'm just going with this for the moment. So, yeah, this is where the kind of magic happens, is with CC glass, which you can, if you go to your effects and presets, and you can just type in CC glass, and there it is. It's under stylize, so if you want to find it up here as well, effect, stylize, CC glass. So we can see already that it's bumped up this layer. It's created a displacement. Now the first time you do it, it won't do that. It will probably just come up like this, and you'll wonder what's going on. The bump map for us is this black solid, and the source of it we want to be the effects and the masks, because we want, this is a mask layer, we're basically using the masks to cut this out, and we also want it to use these effects on this layer so that they wobble about as they move because of the turbulent displace, and because we want them to glue together when they get close to each other because of the vector blur. So, I mean, this is it. You can use this, you can play around with this, and this is the basics of it. You control the. Actually, I'll just check this as well. When it comes through, it may come through for like luminance. I think that's the standard. We want it on alpha because we're using the alpha of this black solid, because the masks are creating the alpha map. So yeah, you've got properties up here. You've got things like the softness, which will smooth out that effect or make it harder. There's height and there's displacement, which both basically push out this effect to make it look higher or lower. You can adjust the light color, you can change the intensity, change the height of the light, make it higher or lower, and the light direction as well. You can move it around to wherever you want it to be. I've also got these controls here for basically changing the color of it, so you can make it look more like water that's just on the road there, or you can sort of darken it down and make it look, I don't know, more like oil or whatever else. You can adjust the specular and you can adjust the metallic, and there's various properties there that you can play around with. As I said, it's the reason for duplicating this layer and doing it on that is so that we can adjust it, we can adjust the hue and saturation of it. We can make it a little bit more metallic, or however we want to do it, basically. And what I'll just quickly do is go back to this solid and let's turn that blur off and see what happens. Okay, so we can see that it's really sharpened it up. This is the fast blur that I was talking about earlier. Yeah, I think it might actually be better with, I think it needs a little bit, but maybe just less than what was on there before. Okay. Yes, the sort of last thing on there really was adding another turbulent displace, which is just for, it just distorts the reflections that are in these weird blobs. And you know, you play around with that to your heart's content and decide on how much of an effect you want it to have, if anything. You can also add a blur after that if you need to. And then the last two things I added on here, if you right click on this layer and go to layer styles, there's drop shadows and inner shadows, as well as these glows and bevel and emboss and things like that. They're worth playing with as well. The drop shadow there, I mean, that's quite harsh, I think, because I've taken the blur off it as well. It looks even worse. These basically work like the Photoshop layer styles, which are generally considered to be really not cool, but you know, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, as in this example. So yeah, we've got drop shadow. I've also got inner shadow on there as well. Is that turned on? It's very subtle. So again, yeah, potentially very, very naff, but it might work for what you need. And there's different layer styles and stuff on there as well. So yeah, there we go. I think, I mean, it's not going to be perfect for everything, but there's potential to do some reasonably cool stuff. And the project I've just been working on, it for most of the scenes, it works fine. It needs a little bit more tweaking. The map that's being used is quite important. Adding things like a blur on top of the displacement layers is sometimes quite a cool thing. The effect that I was going for was much more of a kind of Terminator 2 metallic blob sort of style, and in quite dark environments and moody environments it seemed to work quite well. Also, if the subject's moving around, it it helped. You know, basically these were being stuck onto an actor that was moving around in a scene, and the camera was moving as well. So having things like motion blur on them and stuff like that makes a big difference. Which reminds me actually that that's something that I should have put back on. Yeah, let's do that. Let's see if it makes much difference. So there you go, quick and easy, blobby, fluidy stuff in After Effects. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this one's recorded. Still recording so far. It's the longest one yet as well. Why is that? Yeah, thanks. Bye.